Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, Season 8. Let's check it out.
Here in this with you, and I honestly want to trust my feelings and my gut, and every time I think about you, that's where they are. You are the person that I'm thinking about.
I feel like that very...
So, to remind you or catch you up, Madison is interested in Alex and Mason. She's with Mason now. And for the past bit of time, it seems to me anyway that Madison is preferring Alex over Mason. I think it's gone back and forth, but for a bit now, she's more into Alex. But Alex and her will have more conflict. I don't know if I want to call it conflict, but more concerning interactions, because Alex will get scared of her issues and her past and will shut down or will exhibit it, even say that he's like, oh, that concerns me. I don't know if this is going to work. So she, I think, is keeping Mason in the game because I think she has a connection with Mason, but also if things don't work with Alex, she would still want the option, I suppose. And I think Mason has detected that recently. And so in the previous date, Mason was trying to appeal to Madison, and Madison wasn't really reciprocating. I know what that means. And then they have a date now. And so Mason has been probably gearing himself up for like, okay, I've really got to go for it because I have one person. Well, he's interested in Meg, but I think he thinks of Meg as, I don't know what he thinks of her, but Meg is particular in her personality. I think with a person like Meg, you either really are into her energy and her vibe, or you're really not. I'm guessing she might even observe that in the people around her. So so the thing that I think is a little, I don't want to say funny, but when he opens this date with like, okay, I'm really going to go for it, and I'm going to show her that I'm really into her. And then he said what he just said, and I don't know about you, but that came out real, I don't know what to say, bland and unconvincing. And I don't know if he truly feels it or not, but it didn't sound like the sort of energy that we would see with others. You know, like Joey and Monica are already engaged, and the way that he talked, it was much more spontaneous and it was convincing. I mean, they're engaged now. Anyway, I don't know, though, if the lack of oomph behind what Mason is saying, if that's just because he doesn't feel it or he is not used to saying it. I could see that second one being true because he has exhibited the kind of style of dating where it is more surface. There's not a lot of desire from him to go deeper, and he doesn't really respond that way, at least in the edit. So it could just be that he has tremendous love and desire, but he isn't good at talking about it. A lot of people might have a problem with that. Also, they know they're on camera. That can't help. But I also don't know if he's having a hard time saying it because he suspects that she's not super receptive. It would be harder to get out if you're like, those kinds of conversations, like with Joey and Monica, they were mutual conversations. He would say, I think I'm into you. And she'd be like, oh my God, I'm into you. And then he'd be like, oh my God, I'm into you. And they have a different energy. But so I don't know what it is. And the way she was non-verbaling when he was talking, I don't know if it was edited in, but it looked like it was legit. It didn't look like the sort of response, because if she was at least receptive or wanting him as he says this, even though it's a little, well, maybe very bland is the word for it, she would be elated, right? She would be, and then like, oh, wait, I don't know. There doesn't seem to be that sort of reaction, right? If your crush tells you that they're into you and might be thinking about wanting to marry you, I mean, that would make your day, right? She does not have that reaction.
Elusive.
It's, okay, let me be more clear then.
So she says that was elusive, I think meaning vague and unclear. And so he says, okay, let me be committed, or let me be more clear. And she did this in the previous day. So I'd really love to ask her in this moment and have her be honest about what she, and self-aware enough to tell me what her approach is, because previously when she did this and he stepped up, she didn't. I wouldn't be surprised if for her, Alex is still her number one, and she is still at the point in the week where she's like, well, I'm really not sure about Alex, and it'd be nice if I had options so that I could make sure that I get the right one, right? Now, that's not very romantic, right? Like with Joey and Monica, at least in the edit, they didn't have any of that. It just looked like they, from the very beginning, liked each other, and then were having a good time together, and then had the lovey stuff, and then we're engaged. So it just has that romantic, rom-com ideal. So I'm guessing that's where she's at. But if she were to pause and think, I don't think I'm into Mason, so I think I should just tell him that. Sometimes on the show we run into that. We can't really tell, but I wonder if that's something. But I also will say that it's possible that it's asking too much of these individuals in the whirlwind of what is happening, and they have no access to their support system outside. They don't have their phones. They can't talk to anybody. That it might be hard for them to zero in on how they feel about things. It's just a whirlwind of activity. And so if she were to say like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not Mason, but what if it is? I don't know. And if he is into Meg, then he's into Meg, and then that'll be that. But if he's really into me, then I'll give it some thought. But I'm not going to give it some thought until I learn that he is an option for me. I don't know. Because she doesn't seem to be interested.
I'm committed to you.
And I'll stop yammering. But you see that face? That is not the face. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know what it is, but it's not the typical face that we get when someone is told by what they're hoping to be their soulmate that they want to commit. Usually it's interesting. It'd be interesting to look at all, if you got a bunch of people that hadn't watched the show and you just showed the facial expression upon being told something like that, if you could predict based on the facial expression how things would pan out. Because I feel like I have a guess. I of course can't know, but I would put that in, because sometimes people will have that face when they're excited, but they don't want to show it, or they were hoping for more or something. But let's rewatch that face.
I'm committed to you.
So watching it again, I have a different sense. So the first, was like a fear kind of face of, whoa, but also not disgust. I mean, I wouldn't go far to say disgust, but not, I guess so. But then this other face kicks in of, right? Like, okay, let's see where this goes. I don't know. What do you think?
Put an ultimatum on you?
Definitely not. There was no pressure.
Yeah.
I had time to think it over, and that's what I came up with.
Okay. I didn't expect you to come to any conclusion, but I appreciate you affirming me in that way. It means a lot to me. And yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes it look like she is just the sort of reactor to that sort of disclosure that is more subdued. I could see her having walls up because of what happened with Alex, and normally if it was just her and Mason and she had never met Alex, if she would be more spontaneously excited, or if Mason had been more non-bland. But I don't know, now it's starting to look like she might be into it.
I do like hearing that.
Okay. I appreciate you receiving it so well.
I have to say, I would hope that everyone can do what they want, but this whole time on both of these dates, it's been a one-way thing as far as I can remember in the edit, right? She's like, look, I need to know if you're into this. And maybe by implication, She's saying, I'm into you, but she's not reciprocating overtly. And she doesn't have to, but there's something kind of one way with that.
What do you want to eat?
I'm definitely like a savory girl. I don't usually have like a huge sweet tooth, aside from a cream pie.
Okay. Good God.
I love cream pies.
Really?
Yep.
I do too. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anyone watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? That episode where Charlie is telling Mac and Dennis about how you got to watch the scene.
Yep.
Well, they're great.
I hear you. Big fan.
Oh, fucking K.
I will say that it did seem that Mason and Madison had more physical chemistry. So they got that going for him. And that does seemingly, from the edit, very much contrast between her and Alex.
Tonight, baby. I probably shouldn't tell you that because now you literally have the upper hand for anything you want.
I won't take advantage.
Just be gentle with my heart, please.
The song, I can't tell, are there any red flags? I mean, maybe someone just wrote a song like that.
Oh, hey. How was it? It's good. You're number one or number two?
Number two.
Okay.
But he.
So I think we're hearing that, at least prior to the date with Mason was number two to Alex's number one. Or it's just the nicknames for those two and it doesn't represent the ranking. But it kind of sounds like the ranking, right? But it also sounds like she's saying, well, I don't know, after being with him. She did say something a while back. I don't know if I included it in my reaction video edits, but she said that she was just waiting for someone, if I'm remembering right, I'm 95% sure this is her. In the lounge, she said, I'm just waiting for someone to show me that they want to be with me. Now, on one hand, that is not encouraging because it sounds like someone isn't thinking of what they want. They're just waiting for someone to want them. Or it could indicate that she's into either and could go further with either, but doesn't want to move further with anyone until they show that they're into her. And yeah, makes sense. And I will say that if that is the case, from my memory, Madison hasn't been super disclosing of how she feels about them, with Alex, but if Mason's anyway. So I think we're hearing Mason's number two at least before this date. So that's interesting to hear. That's the way it looked.
He told me that he was like, our conversation last night just made me realize like I don't want to lose you and I'm committed to you.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, oh no.
Did you tell him?
Well, no, because I don't know how I feel yet.
Okay, that's interesting. The more and more I see from Sarah, the more I appreciate her. So Madison is saying, yeah, after last night, he tells me today that he's committed. And Sarah's like, oh no. Because, Sarah's thinking, oh no, he's your number two. That's not a good situation. That's not good, right? Which is kind of how I was feeling. I'm glad Sarah is validating me at this point, because with Madison, the way that she was approaching, I was, sometimes from the outside we can't tell what's going. Like a few seasons ago when Johnny was into Izzy and Chris, and then when she went, was it Izzy? She goes for Izzy, and then Izzy's like, yeah, I'm not into you. And then Johnny's just like, oh, you know what? Actually, I was wrong. My number one was Chris. And you're thinking, he was? Because you just broke up with him. And then didn't Chris come back? Wasn't he invited? Anyway, I can't remember if that was the case. But in those situations, it looks like someone is, at the very least, being extremely wishy-washy about who they are and what they want. But the accusation is that they're just in it to get somebody, and they don't really feel the way that they're claiming they feel about someone. They're just trying to get to the next phase, or they're just desperate for someone, and they're just looking for a warm body, that kind of thing. But I think it's way more complicated than that. You can absolutely imagine, especially for Madison in her dates with Alex and with Mason, that she could have the one and the two thing vacillate within the same date, or vacillate between, I don't want either one of them. There's this third guy that I want to go back to, and we wouldn't know. It would be kind of nice if they had one-on-one interviews where they told us that information, right? And I think it would actually save some of them because to the audience, I think it would help people to not hate some of the individuals for doing that love triangle kind of thing. Anyway, but I'm glad Sarah's validating. She's like, ooh, let's rewatch that.
Last night just made me realize, like, I don't want to lose you, and I'm committed to you.
Oh, shit.
And I was
I forgot that she even said shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. And then Madison says, oh, no. Yeah. Well, Madison, you were the one who pushed him into that. and Mason's a big boy. He can handle himself. And he knows that Madison is into two different people. So she's not lying to him. But if he is like a solid number two, then why did you do that? Yeah, Sarah's like, oh shit, oh no.
like, oh no.
Did you tell him?
Right, and then Sarah's like, oh, so you told him, right? You told him that he's your number two, because he's got someone else. he's into two people, so you told him, right? And then she's like, no, I didn't know how to. Now, if she is like, yeah, he's number two, but he is barely a number two, and sometimes I kind of feel like he's done, then okay, But it doesn't look that way to me.
Well, no, because I don't know how I feel yet.
After this, like that.
Yeah.
No, I totally feel that.
I just don't know. I can't be like, no.
Yeah.
Because what if I don't feel that way?
Yeah. Just keep it open. I don't think that's wrong.
I know, but I think it might send someone home.
Did you tell him you'd have another connection though, that you're still trying to figure out?
Yeah, he knows that.
Yeah, I can't tell which one it is, and it wouldn't be unusual for a viewer like me not being able to tell. But I think there's a question mark there. There's a question mark there.
When there's two people who are just perfect matches.
I feel like you're holding your cards close. So, like, what do you feel about us right now?
Sorry, Pop-Tart in my mouth.
All right, so this is interesting. On the heels of Madison talking to Mason, who is her number two, and her approach to her liking two people. And now we see Mason talking to, I think, his number two. So they're two different people and potentially with two different feelings, but let's see how Mason approaches his conversation with his number two.
I mean, there's no one who I've been able to have conversations with like this.
I feel like we're similar in all the right ways, but then like also opposite in all the right ways. We're like, I'm more outgoing, you're more mellow and like kind of laid back. But then I feel like we can really like go there together, the depths of life.
That's interesting. I hadn't considered that, but they would know better than I would, but that does fit the edit. I could see them fitting together. She's saying more outgoing, and also she's a lot more talkative and energetic. I'm glad that she's taking things seriously. I was worried that wall to wall she would, I don't know if it would be avoiding the situation, but that she would keep it fun and light and goofy the whole time, which is a strength of hers, but there's a time and a place.
Tell the people you love them. I will say, I don't say, if I like am falling for somebody, I'm cautious to say it until I know it's real.
I couldn't agree more.
What does love mean to you?
Wow. What a loaded question.
It is. So you get to take it wherever you want.
Love to me is having...
So I wonder if the cultural roots or tendencies of Minneapolis and Minnesota are at play here. My sister lives in Minnesota, has for a long time. And as a partly Swedish person, I have some awareness of the way in which the culture of Minnesota can be described as very Scandinavian and cold, but dependable, I guess would be the words. As a side note, the Scandinavian, my Swedish ancestors came over around the year 1870, emigrated. They first were in Pennsylvania for a little bit, but a large portion of that wave, because there was a famine, and actually have extended relatives that died in Sweden. My people are from the same region where IKEA was founded. I don't know if that's a goofy thing to say, but that's how I remember. I think it's Småland. Anyway, so my people, for whatever reason, went to Kansas. There was a small Swedish community in Kansas and Salina. So most of the Swedish and other Scandinavian folks went to the Minnesota region. From my understanding, one, we're seeing more white people, which is potentially a result. My sister, she looks like me, but she's short. Sometimes she'll talk about her social life and about people in her town, Duluth specifically. Something happened recently, and I said, wait, what percentage of people are tall, blonde, blue-eyed people? And she was like, oh, it's almost 90% or more. And I was like, oh, come on, it can't be that many. I mean, there's got to be some brown-haired people. And she's like, no, I don't know what she said exactly, but she was telling me that the stereotype is for a reason. And we're seeing that on this show. Now, Minneapolis is a cosmopolitan city, and there's a lot of diversity there. I say all this to say, I wonder if some of the things we're observing, maybe particularly in Mason, is reflective of those values and the comfort level with being vulnerable and lovey-dovey and communicative. And how, from the outside, when I see Mason, I see him as someone who is not really into the process, and he's not very expressive. He doesn't seem to really care either way. On paper, he's really into Madison and is wanting to move forward with going down the road of potentially getting engaged. Doesn't feel that way though, right? And the way he was communicating to Madison was I was using the word bland. And then now when he's talking to Meg, and the way Meg is talking to him, it from the outside just lacks that oomph. We've seen that before in the show, but it is rarer, and I feel like in this season it's more of it. And who knows? And even if I could investigate further, we would never be able to answer that question, because we can't know how people are influenced by culture. How much does it have to do with their individual differences, or how they deal with emotions, or their upbringing, or their parents, or whatever. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. What do you think? Maybe there's some people that know more about the tendencies here. All right, well, let's adjourn there. If you didn't know, I'm doing these personalized videos thing on my website, so you can go there and sign up to get one of the personalized videos from me, like a happy birthday or anniversary or whatever. Congratulations. It's fun for me to do, and sometimes it's fun to get those things. I've received those kinds of videos and from my parasocial relationships, and it's an unforgettable experience in a strange way. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.